Welcome to the Good, the Bad, and the Sequel Q&A. My name's Doug. So the next sequel that we're going to be covering is K9PI, the third installment of the Jim Belushi and Cop Jerry Lee, Dog Cop Jerry Lee Buddy Cop series, which, man, this one had so much to discuss. I cannot wait for you guys to hear. We just got done recording it. Whew, man, the movie has some wild, wild stuff in it, but it was 2002, straight to DVD. It was a wild time to be alive. And for it, I talked with an actor who played the FBI agent in it. It had so many funny scenes. Actor Matthew Bennett. We talked about him still acting, even though he's doing headshots. He's doing a lot of photography. Like his email when I reached out to him included his photography company name, and it was like, all right, cool, man, this is really neat. Because it was really cool because he's, as an actor, so used to getting shot when it comes to photography, so he's able to do that for an actor, a fellow actor, and be able to provide that service because he knows what from the experience people are looking for. So we talked about his journey from graphic design to theater in high school, and he loved it. And then he went on to be in so many cool things: Battlestar Galactica, Taken, Murdoch Mysteries, Orphan Black. He even had a story from early in his career from Just One of the Girls, a movie that is Corey Haim dressing like a girl, so kind of like the Just One of the Guys, but in reverse. Man, Matt was awesome. Lots of fun. Do me a favor, if you're new here, please, please, please subscribe, like, share, wherever you are listening. Find us on YouTube. There'll be an unedited video version of this that obviously had me flubbing a lot of lines, but Matt will sound phenomenal. Yeah, lots of fun. It was cool. We talked about a lot about AI. We started talking about when it comes to writing, the audition process, the way it's kind of weird now that it's not really in person. You're not getting that, hey, this guy really is a cool guy anyway. Nope, you don't have that. You just have a tape and that's it. They can't tell you to try things different ways. So we get into a lot of it. We cover a lot, but I'm going to quit my yapping. And here is actor Matthew Bennett. But I'll just start from the beginning anyway. So you grew up in Toronto, like you said. You're going for graphic design. What had you make your way into theater? Was it a buddy, a girl, or you always wanted to try it out?
Yeah. I went to high school. I switched high schools because they had a great arts department that's Northern Secondary in Toronto. And I happened upon the theater program and was really drawn to it. And then in the later 2 years of high school, I used to be a fat kid. I was a fat kid. And I lost a ton of weight over a very short period of time over Christmas holiday. And I came back to school and I had like new clothes that fit and I had a suntan in a way. And people thought I was like somebody new. And but what I recognized was that I got like a
Yeah.
lot of female attention all of a sudden, right? And then I was good at acting and the theater program was like chock a block with young women. And so that was, I
Yeah.
don't know, it just seemed to make real sense to me. You know what I mean? It's like this looks like a road I'd like to travel down for a while and see what it's about. And that was it. My theater teacher, her brother went to UBC and we talked about the program there and I applied and got in and that's where I went to school for a couple of years and I went to theater school after and have lived in both Toronto and Vancouver professionally as an actor.
Yeah. No, but no, at least you're honest. And I'm sure I talked to Brian Thompson, who was in a bunch of stuff. He's still acting, but he was in a bunch of stuff in the 80s and 90s. He was the bad guy he played like the Night Stalker in Cobra. He did the same thing. Big jock in high school, obviously huge dude.
Okay.
He saw like some girl that he liked was doing theater. So he did that because of that and then fell in love with it. Like he was like, I used to make fun of people that did that. But then I did it and I was like
Yeah.
hooked and it changed my life.
Yeah. It's a great, I always say in between action and cut, it's like the best job in the world. You know, there's a lot of stuff, in between cut and action, you'd probably be better off doing. But overall, it's a great job. And, it fits my personality well. Like I don't, my dad was an office guy for, company man for,
What did he think about acting?
He was pretty like, get a degree and do this and do that. I showed him, I photocopied my first paycheck and mailed it to him because we didn't have email back then, man. We didn't have a lot of things. And I mailed it to him. And so then it
Yeah.
became a viable
He didn't
reality,
believe you by phone. He's like, I gotta
right? He's
see
like,
the
okay.
check, and you're like, all right.
I think the thing was that he was concerned that I would struggle.
Rightfully,
And
sir. Yeah.
that's any parental sort of ideas. Like, I hope my kids don't struggle. And so that was for him, like, do it. But then my mother on the other side, my mom's an artist. So I had like a very interesting mix and a lot of support. And they were both very supportive. Um, but it was that paycheck
All
where my
right.
dad went, oh, okay, this is this
Oh
this is
wow.
something,
So
right?
your first time on
Yeah.
sets, like, do they hook you up? Are you able to like practice on a real life set, like while you're in college? You're doing all that. You're doing theater, or are you thinking TV and film at that point too?
When I was just about theater.
How did you get not away from theater? I'm sure it's something you're still passionate about to this day, but was it how did you get drawn to TV and film?
I have always loved movies. I got to work with John Cusack, and growing up, he was like one of the reasons why I became an actor. It's a time of say anything, and it's just like a magic time in filmmaking for sure. And I spent a lot of time in the movie theater, and I thought that would be a great job. So in
Sweet.
theater, my parents would take us to theater. We'd go to Stratford all the time, and that was sort of don't mean to sound elitist, but my mom was very specific about getting us out to like the art galleries and things like that. It was a way to get the kids out as well, right? So we're gonna
Yeah.
go get some culture. So I've always been around theater, and I recognize that that experience of being in the theater with an audience and seeing something live on stage is like, when it goes well, it's electric, and you cannot match that. It's different than a concert. You know what I mean? It's a different kind of energy, and there's a different story being told, really, on stage as opposed to a musician on stage. Um, so I recognize, and still do today, recognize the power in theater, and I've seen some great plays, man. But
Yeah.
overall, my interest has lied in film and television, and the directions that you can go within that genre. You can do a lot of things. And then, I'll say it, I fell in love with the money. The money was very
Yeah.
different. And also, I said that sort of this job suits my personality, like, because you're with people. If you're doing a series, you're with people for 3, 5 months, but then they go away. you know, it's, I wouldn't be a good job man, like 9 to 5 every single day for 10, 20 years, seeing the same people. Like, that would be terrible. I think that would just be
Yeah.
well, for me anyway, it doesn't fit me. So, and film and TV, like, you could go in and do a day or 2 days worth of work or half days worth of work, get paid and go, whereas in the theater, you have rehearsals and you're with the same people for a number of weeks, and it's a different thing. It's a different thing.
Yeah, and the pay's not that much. No, I agree. Like, I talk to people, it's like they love that, but then when, like you said, when you get into it, it's hard to give up work to, like, I talked to Eric Roberts. He's like, I would love to do a play, but it's like rehearsals for 8 weeks and the pay's not good. So that's like 2 months worth of roles I could be doing at that same time. So it's like that kind of, you have to decide, like, if you want to go back, like, do you really need to feed your soul? Because I think that's what it is. You're
Well,
getting that
yeah,
instant gratification, you know?
totally what it is. And it's like, do you need to feel your soul? I think, as actors, we're artists who can't really practice our art that much, like literally 95% of the time you're sitting waiting. Even when you're on set, when you're working, you're just sitting around waiting. You
Yeah.
don't work that much, but you're an artist. So it's like, in my photo studio, I have a lot of actors come in, and I always ask the question, what else do you do? Like, like, how do you
Yeah.
get your art out? How do you get that thing that you need to express out? Do you paint? Do you write music? Do you write stories? What do you do? I'm kind of concerned about actors that don't do any, I'd be like, why are you doing it then? It's like,
Yeah. Yeah.
unless
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
have to do this thing, why are you doing that? So I always say, like, you take the jobs in TV. Look, they're not making On the Waterfront anymore. You know what I mean? It's not happening these
Yeah.
days. And the stuff, I've been in the business for 33 years. I've seen, not everything, but you see the same stories come up, the same series. It's just slightly dressed up, slightly different, but it's, oh, this is that from 10 years ago. And, there's not a lot of stories out there. So, as an artist, as an artist, as an actor, and you have to recognize you're just a widget, right? You're just like literally somebody's out, it's written what you're supposed to be saying. Somebody's behind a monitor saying, "Can you move over there on this line? Cause that'll help my cutout." Somebody's dressing you, somebody's feeding you, somebody's literally coming to get you at the trailer to walk you to make sure you don't get lost on the way to set. So there's
Yeah.
not a lot of like artistry and freedom and, in what you're doing. You're a widget. And so, yeah, I think that actors do have that feeling like I do need to get up on stage and I do need to do something different and express that. Cause like I said, it's electric when it works, right? And it's a very different experience. And I say you take the jobs in film and TV so you can go and do a play. You bank your money.
Yeah.
It's like you make movies with your friends, right? You take that crappy job, cop number 2, we call them the rubber gun gigs, where they give you a rubber gun and you're on set for like a week and a half and you're like, this is great overtime and I'm reading books and you know what I mean? I got my 5 lines. It's like, great, man. Like, no small part. Give me the small part with lots of days, please. I'll take them. And then I'll take that money and do something cool with it, right? I'll put up a show or, finance a short or do something, learn to paint or whatever. So, yeah, it's like, I don't know. I, I, I'm not going to talk trash, but I think Eric Roberts is okay. If you look at his IMDb profile, man, he's got like 5 million credits on there. He's like
Oh, it's
he
insane.
never
Yeah.
stops
Yeah.
working, right? He's probably got his own plane.
Yeah.
He just hops on and goes from set to set to set to set to set. He could do a play. He could do a play.
Oh, no, I know that. Yeah.
People would come
And
too. I'd go see it.
I think he has. I think the one he met his now wife Eliza Roberts, who her mom wrote on like Bewitched, her dad wrote a bunch of movies. So they're like this kind of Hollywood couple. And then in like 96 or 97 is when you could see he started saying yes to things.
Right.
And he was able to like travel the world. He's like, man, I get to go to India. He goes,
Yeah.
do you think I thought when I was a kid
Yeah.
like I would be going to India
Yeah.
for a weekend?
Yeah.
And no, it's definitely, no, it's true. And it's cool. Toronto, I'm sure there's a lot of places. I'm sure there's a lot of places to get up. Like, I'm sure there's poetry, improv, a lot of stand-up places. So I'm sure a lot of people you're talking to, you kind of, like you said, you have to do those other things in order to chase your dreams.
I think
sometimes.
so. Acting is it's a unique field for sure. It's hard to get good at it if you're not practicing or doing something within the scope of that. And I'm not as faithful as I used to be when I first started out. I'd always have a script with me, and I'd be reading 4 or 5 film scripts a week and watching a movie at least one every day. I knew everything that was happening, was shooting in town, who was on it, what it was like. You know what I mean? And reading and just doing everything that I could to contribute to my humanity and understanding of the business, but also being able to bring things. So when I was called in for an audition, it's like, I know what this show's about. I could do that, or I'm going to borrow this a little bit from this movie I just watched. So there is a lot you can do and should be doing, but as far as your artistry goes, it's like you don't really get that from reading or prepping or running your business as an actor. And that's, you need to,
because even acting classes, right? How much are you really doing in an acting class, right?
Well, that's something, at least you're working, right?
It's something, yeah.
Yeah. And you're working with people and working on that, which is, acting is about breathing and listening. It's like it's being present, which is really difficult to do. Really difficult. I see it here in the studio all the time when I put a camera in front of somebody. Like, people just disappear sometimes. It's exhausting, right, to be present, in the world. Yeah.
So how did we'll talk about like the early part of the career, but how did photography start? Was that always an interest?
My mom put me in a summer course when I was in grade 7, so 12 years old, and I took one of those Toronto school board, summer things, and they had a dark room. And I was, there's the story where people go into this dark room and that paper hits the tray and they see the image come out and you're like, wow, this is incredible. And that's really what it was, because I just shot the roll of film. Like I just shot it half an hour before, and there were these images that I clearly recognized. And so I felt like in some ways I had like a time machine, I could stop time
Yeah.
and pull things in, and it was all about what I was seeing. And for a long time I did landscapes and cityscapes and that sort of thing, things without people, it just made it easier. I could take my camera out and go wherever I wanted to go and, do that. And then my wife was working on a show called Ransom in Budapest, and I was there with her, and our friends were coming through, and I just started taking portraits of people. And some of them started using them for headshots. I'm like, this is cool. But what I realized through the process was that the conversation was different all of a sudden. We were talking about different things. There's a thing that happens when you sit down with somebody and you do their portraits and you make this thing happen. There's a conversation change. It becomes a little more personal. And I found out that I found out things about my friends I never would have found out if it wasn't through
Wow.
this situation. And I thought this is really interesting, because I'm a very curious person, and I do like people, and I'm always interested in people's journey, how they got to where they are, who helped them, what do they want, have they met their goals yet? Like all these questions I have about us, I guess, as human beings in particular.
Yeah.
And they were like, it's like, wow, through this process of portraiture where I'm creating an image with somebody that they then go and take and, use within their business. And hopefully people think it's a good shot and they stop on it and look at it, which helps that person. So through that process, I'm learning all these things and really enjoying myself. So that's how the studio started. And then my wife found this studio for me. January of 2020, I signed the lease here. And then March 2020, COVID hit. And it got
Yeah.
real quiet, man. Got real quiet for a couple years. But I kept going.
You're still going.
I'm still
still
going.
there.
What's all that stuff
Yeah.
behind you? What's happening behind there? Those VHS
A bunch
tapes?
of them are VHS tapes and then some autographs that
Those are
I
great.
got from some people.
VHS
Yeah,
tapes.
one was the guy from Halloween 8. He was a really nice guy. He was a stunt man, and he just got the role of Michael Myers, and he's like, I'm going to send you something. And I'm like, all right. And he was a fellow Canadian, and like randomly, like 3 months later, he was like, hey, what's your address? And I'm like, oh my God. And then he sent that, and he said, you're
That's
next.
great.
And then I helped this guy, Larry Hankin, I helped him put together his memoirs. And that's why, like, I chatted with him during COVID. We connected. He wanted to write a book about his life. We were doing something like this. He's like, I want to talk about my career and put it in book form. So I was like, he's like, do you know anyone that does that? And I never did it before. So I said, oh yeah, I
I've done that. I can do that.
And it was really because during COVID, it was like, what else are we doing?
Yeah.
I was still able to work because I was doing like telemarketing, but like Saturdays we connect like for 2 hours, talk about his career. And it's so cool. Same thing. Like if I would have just did one interview, I wouldn't have known so many different things about his life.
Right.
Doing stand up in like the 60s and opening for like Miles Davis and like all these wild things. And you don't even think about that because you think of his acting career.
Yeah.
But no, the thing you mentioned that I always think of when people say something similar was like being on a set. To Larry, it was like going to summer camp. Like he would form these friendships with people and just thinking like, oh, maybe we'll run into each other again or work on another movie. Like he was real buddies with John Ashton when they worked on She's Having a Baby. They were the neighbors in the neighborhood. And he goes, a lot of times we were just sitting there for shots, sitting in our lawn chairs in this little like cookie cut neighborhood. And he's like, we were like really talking personal stuff. He goes, I never saw him again.
Yeah.
He goes, you'd think by accident, maybe on something or somewhere. Now 40 years went by. And then sadly, John Ashton passed away. I tried to connect them, but it just didn't work.
Yeah.
But it is so true. Like Larry wrote a movie for Bob Dylan and the band, and it never got made. But anyway, Larry got that money. First thing he thought about was funding a short. So like you were talking about, you take like whatever job. Larry thought it was obviously a cool gig anyway, but then he did this short and they got nominated for a short for an Oscar. So it's like, it's crazy. You think about these people, like they're in so much, but it's like, they're just doing this for the check because they have other things that they're thinking about. Not all actors and not everybody in Facets of Life, but it was so interesting when he told me, yeah, I got this check and, oh yeah, he used it to film a short. Or maybe that would have been, I think that was his first check when he did Escape from Alcatraz with Clint Eastwood.
Right.
I think he said, oh yeah, I got that check. And then the next week I bought a camera and filmed to do the short. And it's like, wow, man. It's like, it's really cool when people have that mindset of like, I just need to do this thing to do this other thing that's something I do late at night or some other side hustle.
Absolutely.
So that's what's going on behind me. Just the VHS tapes of sequels that I just collected, especially during COVID. People were throwing a lot of stuff out. Some guy had like 4 garbage bag fulls of it. And I'm like, it'd be pretty cool to have that as my backdrop for when I'm chatting with folks. But and you kind of mentioned something sequel wise before. It's like the idea is, like you said, they're not making it on the waterfront. It's mostly regurgitated ideas or putting the same show that was from 20 years ago in a different setting. It's really the same kind of dynamic.
Yeah.
It's such a fear of the public not liking it. People really don't try new things.
I think a lot of it comes down to just is the commercialization of the industry, right? There's a great interview with Betty Davis on Dick Cavett show. And she comes out, she's got like a tumbler of scotch and a cigarette, right? And she starts talking about the business and she's like, it hasn't been the same since the oil companies took over, right? It became a thing. It's all about bottom line. It's why we get these franchises that I guess are no longer working. I'm not really following box office anymore, but these franchises that were really popular and worked well and have lots of, ancillary revenue streams and toys and food plans and all this stuff, right? They're just like, people are, like that.
I know.
There's some good stuff coming up on the streamers, they're investing in some good storytelling. And I think it's interesting to find that sweet spot in how many episodes within a show, 6, 8, 12, whatever that is, and what works and what people like, what they consume, right? And the pace with which they consume, right? Because, people will binge watch stuff and that's like you're sitting down for 3, 4 feature films in a row, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
just going through that. But people, if it's the right show, they like that, right? Which is cool. So, I shouldn't say they're not making the on the waterfront, but, overall they're really not. They're trying to make
totally
what's successful, right? And so they can make, shareholder value, right? This is another thing too. It's it's not like you've got a studio mogul just cutting a check now, saying, good luck, this Gone with the Wind thing, I hope it works. It's not like that. And I was reading what's the guy's name? There's a guy who has, it's now in Substack, and he writes about stats. It's all about stats, movie stats. So he'll tell you the average age of the actors now in feature films and, and the changes and stuff like that. He's gone through a whole bunch of patents that Amazon filed with regard to their streaming services and how they are going to produce things moving forward. And it's alarming how much AI they're using to nail down the stories and the audience. Like before anybody writes anything, right? They're like, this is what we're going to be making, just running through all that information that they have. And it's certainly interesting. However, I think it's choking because the more that goes on, the less gets, it's like when you push something on Facebook or Instagram, right? All of a sudden you start seeing more of that. Like the algos are like, oh, Matt must like that. So let's give him more, cat videos, right? And all of a sudden I'm inundated. You know what I mean? And so that's like how I see these AI, these bots, like how they're preparing things. It's going to make everything very, very small, less stories, less risk, like you said. And I think the interesting stuff for us as humans comes in risk, right? Like, the story that might not work, that becomes a huge hit because it resonates with people. Yeah. So, why was I talking about that? The bots.
I don't know. We just went off a little tangent. That's fine.
The bot.
But no, that's that's sad. The whole AI thing is like such a sucks because you got to think like the creation of something. Just thinking, sometimes I watch movies, like if that movie has a practical effect, even if it isn't a good scene or an effect, sometimes I think maybe just being a kid and always loving watching like old horror sci-fi and looking on the VHS tape and like tapping forward and watching it frame by frame to see like, oh, that's when they switched it. And
Yeah,
like the
yeah.
bad horror movies, like
Yeah.
they switch. Oh, they put a watermelon on his head.
Right.
And it's like, oh, that's why it looks like that. Or it's just from interviewing folks and just thinking about like how much work goes into sometimes things that never make it onto the screen, like some effects that guys work on for a month and it's like, yeah, we gotta cut it.
Yeah.
It's
on
like
the floor.
just thinking about all that is what bothers me about AI, because it's like in some instances it could be like AI art that people put out there. It's like, oh man, this is so cool. It's like you wrote a sentence and then something else did everything and put that together. I would rather see the artist that was like, oh my God, that took me 4 years to finish, because there's like a story to it. There's a process. I don't know. I just always feel that just knowing what goes into something, to me, sometimes even more than the finished product, because the AI thing or the AI movie or the AI special effects, it might be amazing and picture perfect, which I hope it's not, but there's nothing that goes into it.
Mint is still $15 a month for premium wireless. And if you haven't made the switch yet, here are 15 reasons why you should. 1, it's $15 a month. 2, seriously, it's $15 a month. 3, no big contrast. 4, I use it. 5, my mom uses it. Are you playing me off? That's what's happening, right? Okay, give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
Upfront payment of $45 for 3-month plan, $15 per month equivalent required. New customer offer first 3 months only. Then full price plan options available. Taxes and fees extra. See mintmobile.com.
There's no
like, well, there's a
sweat
sense of average that goes into it, right? Because, if you ask, an AI to create an image, it scraped all the images ever, and creates something out of that. It's not brand new. It's piecing together this thing that seems familiar. And there's, AI is getting really good. It's getting really good. And I don't believe anything I see anymore. I had this idea that in the future could be in 5 years, the golden ticket will be live theater, because you'll be like, well, I know that that's real. I know that those people are real. I'm having a human experience in this environment. I'm sitting with other people. It's not some kind of, AI that they were using. Like, just wait till like Sam Jackson like signs off on his contract and he's like, you can have all my body and my voice and everything. And they're making movies with him and Marilyn Monroe, and people will be going, this is amazing. But it's all like generated, and
But that was the thing that somebody, to end this tangent, because I know I'm getting a little out there, but it is so true. Like when I remember somebody talking about AI, mentioning that as the perk, and I'm like, that's so stupid. I would not want to be like, I want to see a movie that has Sam Jackson, Marilyn Monroe, set it on the moon, and like these crazy things. People be like, that'd be so cool. I'm like, that would get really old really quick. I don't know. For me, I don't know if I
probably. I've just had this idea, like maybe that's the future right there, is that you can make your own movie, right? You can subscribe to whatever. And
I think eventually that's what it would be, right? I think that's what AI can sort of do, not on that level yet. That's kind of what you're doing. They would take all their performances ever,
right?
Each of them, take what movie you want to use it for. But AI is so stupid too. Like even the free ones, I remember I was like, for the fun of it, what would it be to write like a new Jason movie? And I wrote like where it should be set, what it should be. And at the end, it says Jason takes off his mask and winks at the camera. And that's the end of it. And I'm like, see, like, how does that make that mistake? Like, that's a big
We went through all the movies,
right?
Man. The really successful ones are the end where the bad guy takes off his mask and winks at the audience.
And winks.
Yeah.
But unreal. But yeah, so Matt, this has been great. So back to the acting. So like, when you're doing the theater, how did you get to your first audition? Because the first roles on here, I don't know if it was a commercial, was your first time at set, but Street Justice is what IMDb has. That was your first.
That was my very
role?
first job. Yeah. I had gotten out of theater school, spent a couple months working in a restaurant, which I was not very successful at. Yeah, just not a good waiter. Sorry, people. if I ever served you. My first, that was my first job was Street Justice, starring Carl Weathers and Brian Genesee.
Toronto? Was that Toronto?
No, man, that was Vancouver. It was Vancouver.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, that's where I started out. I went to theater school, like UBC and Presentation House Theater School for a couple of years, and then started out in Vancouver and spent my first 3 or 5 years there, 3 years, I think. And then moved back to Toronto for about 5, and then back to Vancouver for 5, and then back to Toronto for 5, and then back. And
Vancouver was booming at this time. Like when you were there, this is like still at I'm sure it's still booming, but that's when all those shows were out there. Like 21 Jump Street was shooting there. What was the Mafia one that was that? There was a Mafia one. I can't think of it. Ray Sharkey starred in it.
Yeah.
That was out there at that time. There was like a few different shows, and then movies were filming up there.
Yeah.
And obviously Street Justice was filming up there.
Yeah. There was a lot of movie of the weeks. That was the real like bread and butter was movie of the week. We used to call them disease of the week. Whatever the disease of the week was, right? And you just follow the headlines and go, oh, we know what's coming. We know what's coming up here. Yeah. This is going to be the new starring Ed Begley Jr., right? He's a real draw, that Ed Begley guy. Yeah, but it was a good way to make your money. You're like lawyer, whatever, movie of the weeks. Yeah. And the sci-fi series hadn't really Wise Guy. That's
Wise Guy,
right? I was like, I'm not gonna let that go.
That was a good one.
Yeah, and then the sci-fi stuff really started to pick up there. And
X-Files, right? X-Files, you were on pretty early on.
Yeah,
too.
Second season. Best episode. Great episode.
Is that when you look? Because I don't think it's. Now there's so many, like we talked about streaming, so many different channels, so many different avenues. I feel like still in the 90s, there was obviously cable was around, but it was still like you got your face on a show. You were out there. Now you could be on something, and it might be on something that you're not seeing. But I think X-Files, was that like the first one that you were like, or the Commish too around that time, when you were like, okay, I could do this for a career. Like I could really just do this. Was it one of those gigs? Or which check did you mail? Did you photocopy?
Street Justice, man. Street Justice.
So it was the first one? Oh, that's
Carl Weathers
great.
was in it. It's like, of course I got to send that one. Hey,
cool.
Dad, I'm working with Carl Weathers. And I was.
That's awesome.
I was. And Brian Genesee and 2 stuntmen. I got my arm broken and then hit the deck. Then the 2 stuntmen got thrown into a fountain. And then Carl Weathers just walked off camera. He just walked away. And we... it was like at least a dozen takes of him walking away. And I'll never forget, I was lying on the pavement all crooked up with my broken arm and going, this is movie making, man. It was just on the back of Carl Weathers walking away. And then at that time, the playback was literally, it was a VHS tape that they rolled. So he would come back to the monitor. And that's how you could tell if it was a big show. They had playback. They had VHS playback.
Yeah.
And he watched himself walk away. It's like, no, we're going again. And I'm like, I'm not too sure what he was looking for, but he finally found it. But to me, it was like, oh, this is what it's all about, right? This is movie making. It's not what they tell you in theater school, man. It's not. That's not right. It's walking away from camera. It's Carl Weathers, right? Apollo Creed. So yeah, that was the check I mailed. Was that one, because it had that relationship. My dad knew who Carl Weathers was.
Could you imagine filming? Were you working on any shows in the 90s that didn't have playback, that they weren't able to check?
Oh yeah, most Canadian shows didn't have playback.
Really?
For sure. Like, if you were on a big show, it was 35 mil. A lot of shows would just shoot Super 16 and do a blow up, right? And like I did a cop show called Cold Squad that was all Super 16 with a blow up to 35 and then output. So, lighter gear, less expense. But yeah, and then when Rainmaker, when I first started out, they used to fly the dailies down to Los Angeles for processing.
I've heard of that before, but that's what's crazy to think of. Like how, not inefficient, because it was still like, it's just crazy to me to think about, like, what if a whole day was wasted? And I'm sure that's happened a ton of times before you could see playback. It's like, oh my God, we didn't get this right at all.
Right. Yeah.
We have to do this. We have to do this again and again. Because I remember hearing a story of, who was it? What's his name from Coppola? I'm trying to think of what movie he was like and it was like such like an amazing. Was it The Outsiders? One of those movies. I was listening to an interview and they talked about like being able to watch the dailies and it was like this amazing thing and nobody did it. And I'm like, it's nuts to me to think about all these movies with these epic scenes. Like you just hope you got it right.
Yeah.
Or you had to do it the next day.
Yeah. Well, there's storyboarding and then there's just professionalism as well. Like you kind of have an idea of what's going down, but for sure. I don't know. It's a strange thing to me. Like as an actor, I never watched dailies. I did once or twice. But overall I felt like they brought a falseness to your performance. Like I could always tell when other actors you've seen the dailies, man, because you're coming to set and you're doing something different now. All of a sudden, you saw something that looked really cool, and now you're trying to do that. Like your character's going to do like whatever that thing is that you did. Now it's happening, and we're not in the same scene anymore because you're doing this thing. So, and I also felt like my job is to move the camera as an actor. That's my job, right? Show up, get it done in one take. And the camera moves, right? And everybody keeps going, not do it take after take after take. And so if the camera's moving, then I feel like I'm doing my job. And so I don't really need to watch what's going on. Yeah. And also often, you see the dailies and it's like, that's a great scene. I'm awesome in that. And then you see in the final cut and it's like on the back of your head and you're barely in the scene and all the juice has been taken out of it. And you just feel deflated, like they crush my best work, man.
That's got to be something that has to be hard as an actor. I've talked to like even directors and editors and like how hard it is even for them in some cases. Cause like you just said, like, you probably know, like, oh, I know what line I said or something you did in the scene maybe. And then you watch it and it's like, that's not the one I like.
Yeah. They cut it. That's a terrible take, man. That's the worst take you could have used. Where's the good stuff?
Yeah. Oh man, one thing that is on your IMDb that I never even knew was a real thing was I know they got renamed, but just one of the girls, the one the Corey Haim and Nicole Eggert movie.
Yeah,
I wonder why that
that was an awesome job.
I'm sure it was.
Yeah,
those were big names at that time. Nicole Eggert coming off.
Yeah,
Charles in Charge is probably still on at that point. She was gorgeous.
Yeah, they were dating. There was
really?
I made so much money just sitting around. Like he wouldn't come out of his trailer. Or he was off getting tattoos. Like there's just crazy stuff happening, right? And I was there with a bunch of my friends. Like it was a high school movie. So it's like acting wise, I've always spent a lot of time alone. I get cast in these roles that are for whatever reason, I'm just alone all the time. I'm usually in a suit, showing up, making things terrible. But I'm alone. I don't have people. And so the jobs where I'm not alone are fun because it's like, there's my peers and we're hanging out and it's, this amazing experience. And that was certainly that one was, Anything for Love starring Corey Haim.
Yeah. He was already, I didn't think that he was already going down at that point, but I guess so.
Yeah. It was
you
pretty.
Think of him so young because of that age, like when you're a teen and then 6 years old or 6 or 7 years, it's not really a long time, but as you can grow up that quick, because I just think like Lucas is like 84.
Yeah.
Lost Boys is like 85, 86.
Yeah.
And then,
and he was really good too. He was a really good actor. Like whatever, his personality was, when you were there with him on camera, he was there and he was magical. It's like, you could see why he had become who he was. And I wouldn't want that. I wouldn't have wanted that type of fame. That's, crushing at the time, right? That's sort of the Coreys. Remember that? The Coreys?
Yeah.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, the Coreys. Feldman still, he has a band that he tours with. And he dresses like Michael Jackson. And
I keep sending my friend
bizarre
little clips of that. He's busy. He's a busy guy.
Yeah. Oh, man. But so you're in Vancouver, you're busy, like looking at your IMDb, you're working all the time. So obviously you sending that check to your dad. It wasn't just a one-off. You're every year, like we talked about X-Files, Kung Fu the Legend continues. But I'm sure like a big deal. Like when I talk to actors, obviously working on a big Hollywood movie, getting paid a lot is great. But the constant money of being on a series. So Total Recall 2070, that was like your first time as like I know other shows you did like a couple episodes, same character, but this 22 episodes.
Yeah, right off the bat, that was right to camera. They did the pilot and everything, shot that on 35. That was an amazing job. They took the Downsview Air Force Base, which was just being started. It just started to be used as a studio, and they made it like it was a place for, it was military Air Force Base, and they made it kind of attack proof. The ceilings were like, I don't know, 5 feet of concrete. And there was like a basin up front. And the idea was if, Canada was ever under attack, they would just flood the roof and it would look like a lake.
Oh, wow.
And so you would like huge ceilings and big steel doors, and you drive in, and they had built this world inside where it rained and there were all these streets, and it was crazy. And you'd go in and it was dark because you're getting picked up at, 4:35 a.m. and you leave and it's dark, and you spend this entirety of your time there, months and months in this area. It was quite amazing. That was a job. I did okay as an actor. There was some consistency, although tight belt at times for sure. But Total Recall was a job. That was an air conditioner job. That was like the hottest day in Toronto. It was so hot, man. And I was living at Davisville and Yonge, and it was hot. It was hot. And I got the call that I got the job, and I'm like, let's go buy an air conditioner. And and I did, and I felt like the richest cat in the world, man. It was amazing. Yeah, slept that night with the new air conditioner. Thank you, Total Recall.
Is that still being used as a studio today? For other projects, or
I don't know. That's a good question. I don't really think so. I think that they do some features up there, but I haven't been up there. Most of the stuff is like, they've made a lot of theaters around Toronto, like downtown. Pinewood's here, and they've opened up a lot of smaller revival. Netflix has got space out by the Leslie Street Spit. We're down off Cherry Street. There's plans to build. There's a thing called the Hearn Generating Station, which has been decommissioned. And they're talking about turning that into a residential / studio area where they'll have restaurants and, retail and studio, and they'll have little C buses going in from like downtown Toronto into this area. It looks really cool. So it's a good question. Most of the stuff seems to be, that's not true, because they've also building around Markham, and there's stuff around Keele, and there's all these different pockets of studios. And, it's interesting because, Downsview, I don't know. I think they did Mr. Beast. Did they do? Mr. Beast has got some kind
stuff
of
there
series, and I think they did part of that there. Not 100% though.
Yeah, Netflix just bought. I'm in Jersey, and there was this old Fort Monmouth, this base that's been defunct for years, and they just finally, it's been one of those things they've been talking about for a long time, and they're gonna do a studio here. But I don't know what kind of studio it's gonna be. It'd be cool if it was like a studio that they had like live and like not like they have a lot of sitcoms,
right?
But it would be cool if they filmed sitcoms there,
right? Yeah,
I would always wanted all those stories when I talk to people that were on shows that live in front of an audience, like you get there on a Monday, you rehearse, then Friday night it's like this big thing. I've always wanted to go to one of those. Have you ever been in any series that do that live in front of a studio audience?
I did some workshops, multi-camera workshops for the CBC when I first started out. My first trip back to Toronto, got hired for like a week to train multi-camera directors in multicam. So that was kind of cool. We run scenes, and very much like being in the theater, like doing a play. It's live, and a different energy for sure. And then there's an awareness. You have to sort of know where you are on the floor and what's going on. Yeah, great job, man. Rehearse all week, do it once.
Oh man, so that's cool. So that's the air conditioner job. That's amazing. That is cool.
Yeah, they all have names like that. Oh, that's the air conditioner job. Yeah.
So what was, because this is more up, but what was Cold Squad? What was that? That must have
was
been bigger than an air conditioner.
police procedural. That was the Seattle job. That was the
Cool.
job that would take me down to Seattle regularly. Being from Toronto, I felt like, and this is not to slag on Vancouver, not to slag, but I always felt like I was missing some dynamic attitude. It was not that sort of big pulsing city that I enjoy. I live downtown Toronto now. I love the city, the pulse, the energy, the stuff that's out there. And so I'd go to Seattle and kind of get that American, city fix. And Cold Squad was a job that allowed me to do that. I bought my first condo because of Cold Squad. It set a tone for a lot of things because all of a sudden I was number 2 on the call sheet. And so that opened up doors to me where because there's a stepping process. I don't know a lot of actors that have really hit it big and maintained. In fact, I don't know anybody. You just come out of, my first agent said the shortest overnight success he ever heard of was 10 years, which is true. It's like nobody comes out of nowhere. You know what I mean? They're doing something and then they pop up and they hit. And if they've got something that's interesting, if they've got real talent, then they'll be around for a while. Right. But there are a lot of people that show up that look really interesting, but then they disappear because they don't have that thing. They don't have that thing. They can't do a sequel or they can't do another movie. That was all they had.
Yeah.
So being number 2 on the sheet showed a lot of people that, Matt can handle that serious work, which is a grind. It's a grind, man. It's hard. It's hard work. A lot of sitting around, a lot of late hours, a lot of, especially on that show, that was a 58 page script. Every 6 days, we were on a 6-day cycle. Like American TV, they'll have like 7-10 days to shoot multiple units. We had like 1 unit in 6 days to cover all those pages. So there wasn't a lot of retakes. Like you learn to move the camera, right? You learn to show up with your A game and do it. The other thing too is you 1, maybe 2 kicks at the can. So if you suck, well, guess what, man? That's the one that's getting printed. It's too bad. You were so bad in that, but we don't have time to do it again. So we're moving on. So that taught me a lot.
I guess once you get used to that, that's fine. But that's like Clint Eastwood does that. He's like a one take kind of guy. And he's like, if my take is good, if I'm good at it, he wants to move on. He doesn't care about other people.
Well, Spielberg,
which is like kind of a funny thing about him, because Larry in Escape from Alcatraz like challenged him on one, because Clint wanted to do another take that Larry thought was a great take for him. And so they did it. And then Larry did the same thing opposite. He goes, I don't like this one. And he walked out of the scene. He just walked out because they couldn't continue the scene because he wasn't standing there anymore.
Yeah.
So he had a fear of them using that take. So he walked off the camera.
There's Hitchcock would do that. He would do late rolls. He would roll the camera late so the studio didn't have the first half. So he would control the cut that way. He would only do certain takes, looking for very specific things. Yeah. It's Spielberg does that print first take because there's always something. There's 2 schools, right? Like Spielberg's first take, people are uncomfortable. By take 12 or 15, you're getting really used to what's going on. And so it becomes something else. It becomes almost too rehearsed and too finessed, and you're losing that reality, right? So the first take where you never know really where you're supposed to be sitting or what it feels like, those work. And then there's like the David Fincher, 70 takes of coming through the door. But there's a thing there, like if you lived in the house for 10 years, you come through the door a certain way, you use your hip, you know what I mean? Like there's a finesse to the lock and your keys, you know what I mean? Like everything's there. And I don't think that you can really get that in 10 or 12 takes, or 1 really. But, it's all make believe. So I don't know how many takes you're.
But the Spielberg thing, that is so true. Like the first take, like you said, it's all about being present as an actor.
Yeah.
Like you're almost most present because you're really focusing on your lines and what they're saying. So your timing.
Yeah.
But after a few, you're okay, I know what he's gonna say. And it's like you get like
You're like,
more
I'm gonna wait
used
for
to,
his mouth to stop moving, and I know that's my time
Yeah.
to talk. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Oh man. So number 2 on the call. So so that's a thing. Because then from there, well, like what kind of doors did that open? Was that like Stargate, or do you remember like just the auditions you were going to after Cold Squad?
Yeah, there was
Or
a
just
whole
like a different level?
there was a whole, well, kind of, I'd made that entry up, and in the olden days, you used to show up for an audition. Now we do a lot of taping. It's all taping actually, but you used to show up and people would be in the room and they were the decision makers and you would do it live. And it was always this thing where, it's not about acting. Like if you're being auditioned for something, the casting person's called you in. So they believe you can do the job. Else they'd get fired if you went in and did a crappy job. Right. So that,
Yeah.
excuse me, it's not even about acting. It's about like, can he make adjustments? Is he interesting? Does he have interesting questions? What's his personality like? Right? Do it like this, try it like that. That's what the audition should be about. It's not like that anymore. You have to make these decisions based on not having the script, like literally no idea what the story's about. New shows, nobody's seen them. There's nothing of, you know what I mean? Everything's so secretive, right? Everything's watermarked. So afraid of script and ideas getting out. Not that there's anything new there, but it's like, it's hard to audition in that environment. And auditioning is not acting either. Auditioning. It's not acting. It's different. It's a type of acting, but
And both sides, I think, are affected. Obviously, it's affecting the actor who's trying to do it. But I think on the other end, I think those things are so important.
I do too.
Because, hey, man, this guy has the best tape. He'll do great. But then you meet him and he's like kind of a prick.
Yeah.
And you're like, I have to work with it. I have to be with this guy for 5 months.
For 6 months, I got to be with this guy.
Like
for 6 months.
Like
absolutely.
you said, like if you are like, hey, you know what? Okay, or maybe somebody looked at their take and it wasn't that good, but you're like, oh man, if I told them to maybe try it this way or think of this.
Yeah.
Now, I think that's so stupid that
Yeah.
hopefully, again, I think a lot of things that happened because of COVID are going to stay the same because people went, it's cost efficient to not do these certain things, to have office space or do these things. It kind of sucks for the end product.
There's a whole sort of knock-on effect of everything that's gone on. And, it's a business of communication, and you've taken away levels of communication through the audition process. But it just keeps going, right? It just keeps going. And if it was broken, it wouldn't be going. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But Netflix is still making money. Amazon Prime's still making money. Like all these streamers are still making money. So it's like, well, why fix this? Why should we go out and spend extra money on, securing an audition space for a day when we could just do this and watch it on our own time? We don't even have to take time off work to come in. We can like literally, I don't have to go up to Toronto for auditions. I can do it all in Los Angeles or New York or wherever I am, right? And do it that way. And then that's reflected on the quality of what's out there. Cause there is no question, can you do this another way? And I've heard stories like people show up now on set that really haven't been on set and they don't do well. Like they don't do well. It's, you're in an environment where there's 40, 60 people literally staring at you, while you're performing. And it's causes a level of anxiety when you hear action and, the equipment's going and everybody's just sitting watching you. And some people are not making it through that successfully, because they don't have that kind of experience. They're only used to auditioning at home where they get 50 takes or 90 takes, I had 2 auditions that I put onto tape that were due this morning at 8 because it was a holiday weekend here. I could have been going. I had them on Thursday. I could have literally been taping Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and done thousands of takes, pulled out the best one, and then probably not be able to repeat it on set if I got hired.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's I don't know. There's a lot of convenience to it, so I don't know if it's going away, but it's, I think, detrimental to the art and probably the business of film and television as well. Certainly the art. But I think eventually people will get, I don't know, maybe they won't get bored. I thought reality TV would just disappear. I thought people, why would they like this? But then there's,
I know.
right. But it's a game show, and that's always been the most popular form of TV. I understand. And then there's a thing where I think that people, if you show people enough and don't give them any other options, they'll be okay with it. They'll just be like, oh, okay, we'll watch this. This is all we got.
Yeah.
It's better than
I
reading
think
a book, right? It's better than reading a book.
I know. I know. But some reality TV, there's some that you like when you feel that people are genuine, but you watch a lot of those shows. Like I don't watch them, but like Real Housewives, you see like a clip from that, you're like, you can tell that this isn't just a real argument or a real
Yeah.
something. It seems so scripted, so much of that stuff. I remember being a kid. I don't know if you were watching like the Ozzy Osbourne show
Yeah.
when that was on MTV.
Yeah.
Like no joke, that was like the first one that sort of like broke the public because at the last episode they broke the fourth wall and we're talking about like, hey, this whole thing's scripted, and you're like, are you kidding me?
Yeah.
I know, looking back, some of the crazy stuff he did on the show, like threw a turkey through the neighbor's window on Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
Probably should have thought then that was not a real thing, but no. Yeah, it's a shame because I think that whole process and there's so many stories of people's auditions, like Danny DeVito's like a good famous one that he like threw the script down when he was trying out for Taxi, and he said, who wrote this shit, and walked out. Like, not saying that a million people are going to be trying that, but there are those cool stories of going to the audition room and people getting the roles or being liked so much, another role being written on sitcoms. I can't think of one off the top of my head, but I've heard stories of that. But yeah, it's a shame that that doesn't happen anymore. But I'm sure that must have been a
I kind of
cool
feel like
thing.
at some point it has to return. Like there has to be a quality or a level of, maybe it's going to be feature films or something. But I know that I've talked to directors and producers, and there's a lot of frustration even from casting as well. It was like, these environments are making my job more difficult. I have to answer more questions. I have to field more auditions. It gives people who never would have had a shot an opportunity, but it also increases the amount of work that needs to be done to, go through everything and sort, right? And what's good and what's not. And I don't know. It's sort of, I've had a couple people actors come through here, who've done very well. And they're like, it's offer only now. I'm not doing this anymore. I'm not, because, there is like, my average used to be like 1 in 7 or 1 in 8 jobs I'd book. Now I'm like 1 in 40.
Yeah.
A lot of auditions, man. And that's me passing on stuff as well. It's like, I'm not going to audition for this part of a farmer. I don't see myself getting
Yeah.
woodsman.
Yeah.
I don't see Matt Bennett as that. It's not going to happen. I'm just going to skip that, save some time, Whereas if it was in the room, maybe, because then I'm talking to somebody, right? And they could say like, hey, how do you see this? What should I do? What do you think? I've prepared this. What do you think? How can we adjust this? But you don't have those opportunities anymore.
I wonder how they look at the films. Well, not the films, but the audition tapes. You got to think back in the day, you'd have like, it's not like it would be like a cattle call for all the roles, but you got to think you'd have it in order to be like, hey, this is their second audition, but I really love this guy for the role. I think he's going to be it. It's not like you're going to meet with all those other people, but now I feel, because it's like, hey, we have 50 videos to watch.
Yeah.
Like, I wonder how they do that. Do they go, oh, if I love this one, but they're like, well, I have all these here already. Do I have to look at them all? I don't know. It's just, again, it's like as time goes by, and with like technology and everything, and obviously because of COVID, it is taking away from the art. Cause I think that's a big part of the process too, is like getting the right people to fit, like having the lead actor run the line, the person that's already cast, run the lines with the other person. I know probably they still do that, I'm sure, if it's person in an important role, but not for the other people that, I don't know.
Yeah. It's, I don't know. It's certainly changed things. Like I'm trying to think, there are certain, when I started out, would have to go to the agency to get the script because nobody had fax machines. And then fax machines came in. And so you had a level of actor all of a sudden. If you were in the waiting room and some guy had fax paper, it's like, oh, he's doing well. He's doing well.
He has a fax.
And then if you had like a plain paper fax, you were like, oh, this guy's got to be, he's killing it right now. He's got a plain paper fax. And all these sort of these advents of technology, that are supposed to make things better and faster and everything. I don't know if how effective they are overall. It's certainly eating away at the business, and it's become something else. And yeah, they say 99% of directing is just casting, right? Which you don't really get.
Makes sense. You get the right people together. You have people that, I worked with him on that. I know he's not going to mess up. I know he's going to, there got to be so much of that can be kind of taken away.
The sort of the idea of auditioning with script, because you're given script, you're given sides. So a piece of the script you're given it's a scene and you do it, you read it, somebody's off camera. And what I recognize or feel anyway is that it's about character. Like acting, especially auditioning, is about character over lines, because the dialogue changes. Like what you're reading for your audition might not even be in the script when you go to shoot it. It might be cut, changed.
Yeah.
Right. So then it's not about the dialogue, it's about character. But then you don't really have the information to prepare a character. You're kind of loose because you don't have the story and you don't have anybody there across the table where you could ask questions, that will help you get to that point. We do have a thing called...
How vague is it would you get? Like, I know you joked around like saying like a woodsman or a farmer, but like, what would you get? Would it say like farmer 40?
Yeah.
And then like
now you have like things like any ethnicity. Like everybody's so concerned about putting the wrong thing in a breakdown, man. It's like this part could be played by anybody. But then you look down the list and they're all like that, right? Just so they're limiting the liability like nuts, man. It's like any age, any ethnicity, identifies as a male, like all this stuff, right? It's like, okay, you've got me and a million other guys in the ballpark right now, so that's not really helping. A lot of generalities. And, honestly, sometimes I don't know if they actually know what they're looking for until it's presented to them, So I think that if you can make that right hit, that character hit, that maybe you're going to get the job, just based on that. They have a thing called a slate. So at the end of the audition, you're supposed to do a full body slate so they can see what you look like, because they can't see what you look like. You don't walk into a room anymore. And you're supposed to say your name and height and, where you live, where you currently live. And that's really the only opportunity I see in the whole audition process to show some sort of, your humanity, right? To say, hey, my name's Matt, and, and try to make it a little different than your audition, because then maybe you're acting, he's a good actor. See how he said his name? It was nothing like his performance. Man, he's riveting. But other than that, it's like, I don't know. We're, it's different times.
Yeah. Oh, man. It's interesting. I've talked to people about that. That's interesting to hear, like what information you get. So Cold Squad, and then I think obviously the one that just again, there's these shows in the pantheon of sci-fi, Battlestar Galactica. Were you a fan of science fiction before? Obviously, you did Total Recall a few years before this.
Yeah.
But were you always a fan of sci-fi?
Yes and no. I like the idea and the genre, but certain things like Blade Runner is one of my top 3 movies of all time. The whole how that was set up, the aesthetic, the world that was built. It's like I totally buy that. I've never been a huge Star Trek fan. It's not my kind of thing. I love to perform in science fiction in the genre because of what's possible. And as an actor, it's like, it's limitless, right? You get to do all these amazing things. But I'm not a huge TV watcher in general. But I do like performing in that genre. And I did, I watched Battlestar. I watched Battlestar like the original, right? When I was a kid, I watched it. So that was very cool. And how it was reimagined was very cool. And what it was one of those shows where I walked on set. You just know, you get a feeling sometimes when you're on something special. You just know the show's going to have an impact. And I felt that right off the top, and it was a great show to be on. And nobody was famous off the top. You know, there was Eddie and Mary, but other than that, people were really nobodies, right? And so there was no ego or weirdness, and it was just this family making this thing, you know, and the people in charge, David and Michael, and, you know, they're just fantastic, right? So it was an awesome job to be on.
And I'm sure there's probably a big fan base for
There's a
sci-fi. I know
huge,
Star Trek,
yeah,
definitely.
huge fan base for that show. And what I liked about it was that it was like a family would watch the show. So if it gets stopped in the streets, like everybody was watching the show, not just, you know, the kids or the parents or whoever. And then that
Yeah.
job, when you do sci-fi, there's a lot of science fiction conventions that you can go to and get invited to. And so that was a big bonus of being on that show. Was I'd done a couple Stargates, but Battlestar was a big sci-fi thing. And so I was talking to somebody about that today. What an amazing experience. Like they call you up, they're like, "Hey, we want you to come here." Talking about Callum Reddy, I was talking to Callum Reddy about this. There's a degree of, you feel like a prostitute to a degree. You know, there's something odd about them, but you get to go, they hand you an envelope of money, and you're there, and you're in a foreign land, and you can travel from that point. But I got to meet the fans, which was amazing, because, you know, there's this idea of sci-fi nerds and geeks, and it wasn't that way at all. And especially in Europe, like Europe is such a place where people live in different countries. They all know each other. And then this was a reason for them to get together and hang out, right? So I got to be part of that and meet literally like rocket scientists and amazing people, right, who really enjoyed the show. And as a camera actor, you know, you say you're kind of working in a vacuum. You know, you're on set for 3-4 months, same people every day, a little village, and you don't know really who's watching the show or what they think, or if it has an impact on anybody, or what, you know. And these conventions opened my eyes. It's like, oh, we have an audience, and this is an important show to them.
Yeah.
Gives them a lot. And the subject matter of the show was great. I thought that was awesome to be part of something like that and what it spoke to. The quality of the show. You know, there's some bad sci-fi out there. This one wasn't that. You know, it was really cool, well put together, supported. It was well supported, and a great fan base. You know, which just makes everything perfect. Right? You can't do anything without the fans, man. If nobody's watching, nobody's watching, right?
Yeah. And then it's cool you mentioned about like the cons. I think that's the cool thing about those is like we were talking about in the beginning, like the theater, you go on stage, you perform, or a comedian, improv, you're doing something, you're seeing, oh, they like that.
Yeah.
Or, oh, that line that I wrote, the audience laughed when they were supposed to. This is great.
Yeah.
Unless you're sitting in the back of the theater when you're watching one of your films you're in, you're never going to know how much your work, you know, meant to people. I
Yeah.
think that's the coolest thing I think about those is obviously it's cool. People love getting autographs, photos with folks. But I think for the people that are going to them to sign for people like yourself, you wouldn't know
No.
at all. And
Yeah.
you got to go to Europe from a show that you did. That's crazy.
No, it's amazing. You see the world, right? I've been not everywhere, but a lot of places that I wouldn't have been, you know, and it's like, well, I'm there. So let's go and travel around and see what's happening here. Amazing education, free education, you know, paid education, actually.
Where were some of the coolest places you had to travel to film? Did you film like Europe or
I
South
went
America
to this
or
in
anything?
Germany. It's one I reference all the time. It's one I'm going to reference. I went to Bad Salzburg, which used to be a place where they would make salt. So they had this train station, and they had these huge walls of sea foam, and they would put salt water on it and let it dry, and then beat the salt off, and then they would load it onto boxcars and move it out. And when I arrived at this place, it's very German, and like nobody's speaking English. And it looked like a train set. It had started to snow, and I spent 3 days there, and it was total magic. Everybody was amazing, but it looked like a fake. It looked like I was in a train set. I felt like I was in you know, it was perfect, man. It was just like this perfect place. It's really cool. Been to UK a lot, Ireland, just around,
But it's cool for just a job, just something you thought about when you were a kid. You're able to obviously work, make money, have all these great experiences being on stuff, but being able to travel along with it.
That's the best. That's the best. Like if you get an acting job where you're on a plane, you've totally made it. You've totally made it. Like
Yeah.
that's the experience. You get to go somewhere, work, they pay you, they give you a per diem. You're on, I love traveling. So for me, it's right up. You get to meet new people, see how people live. It's an amazing experience as an artist to go out and see the world. It's the best education. Travel's the best education.
Yeah.
It's a definite perk of the business for sure. Yeah. There was a period of time I was working in Canada. I was working Toronto, Regina, and Vancouver. Total rock star, man, on a plane like twice a week. It was amazing. It was amazing. Amazing times. Yeah.
And they're not done. You're still one thing that's cool. I remember seeing this for somebody I was talking to. And that's awesome. There's a Law and Order Toronto.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you're on an episode, I guess, this season, or did it come out yet?
Yeah, it came out February maybe. I'm not too sure. It was a fun job. My friend Peter Stebbings was directing, and I've worked with him a few times. And then that production team I've worked with before as well. And it's a good franchise, they're doing well. Yeah. And it was like one of those summer days that we spent in a park. The episode was about what's the term? Unsheltered, not homeless, unsheltered people. And I was playing like a rich guy, and across the street was this encampment, and they're, drug users and needles and stuff like that. So consequently, the shoot was in a park for 2 days, which is like, this is amazing. It was a beautiful, sunny Toronto day, close to where I live. It was great, get picked up on the set. They're paying me. It's fantastic. Cool new show. People are watching. Well, it's good. I wish them well.
Toronto's a cool city. We went there for our honeymoon. We got married in Niagara Falls on the Canada side, and then we hung out in Toronto for a night. It was cool. I enjoyed it. Rad city.
Toronto's a great city. I always miss it when I'm away. There's Mexico City. Is it New York, LA, and then Toronto? So we're bigger than Chicago now and growing. But yeah, there's some things I would love to change about the city. But overall, whenever I'm away, I miss it. There's a period of time, probably 3 or 4 weeks. It's like, I got to get back here. There's just so many things to do, and it's really cool. Very multicultural, right? Like, I think there's 140 languages being spoken in Toronto, or variations of. And that's reflected in the communities, right? And the restaurants and the fashion and the art and everything. It's like all of that mixed together makes for a pretty vibrant city for sure. Come. When you come here next time, man, look me up. I'll take you out.
Oh yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Well, that's why I love growing up in Jersey. Like even where I live now, like I'm in New Jersey, but we moved west because it was cheaper to buy a house. And even out here, it's so weird. Like when you're somewhere that it's mostly white people where I live, but where I went to high school,
Right.
30 minutes from here was the most culturally diverse high school in America at one point.
Right.
Just by the different people that live there. So it's funny, even within not that far,
Yeah,
it's like
half an
totally
hour, man.
different.
Yeah, for sure. Everything changes, right? It's crazy.
Yeah.
It's like
We
that.
lived in Portland for a little bit, which is like funny because we grew up where we grew up, and then going to New York, you see all these different cultures. But in Portland, it's like, I think when we were moving there, they said if it was Baskin Robbins, 29 of the flavors would be vanilla. Because that's how much,
Portland, man. Yeah.
like white it was. And it was weird to live somewhere like that.
Yeah.
Like going anywhere. I remember playing in basketball, doing like a pickup basketball, and there was all white people. And I'm like, this isn't the way it should be.
Right.
Like growing up where I grew up, it was like never like that. But it is good. Like you said, traveling culture, being anywhere different, you learn from the people that are around.
And you learn stuff in those communities too. I went to Vancouver
totally.
very early on, and I describe it like looking at somebody with no eyebrows. Like, something's off, you just can't figure it out. You know what I mean? And that was it. It was this lack of cultural diversity, right? There was just, it's like, here are the restaurants, and here's the fashion, here's the artwork, right? It's just very contained, and similar, right? So yeah. How long did
Nothing
you live in
different.
Portland for?
Just 2 years. My wife went to school in Jersey. I didn't go to school until later in life, and we were like, yeah, it'd be fun to move somewhere while we're young, because we're gonna do it when we get older, when we have we have kids now. So it'd be great. I would love to move. Like I would love to move every few years. Like I would love to do that because that's why I love doing these interviews, because I love learning about people. I love like trying new things. Like you can only try stuff where you live for so long. Like in my little town where I'm at now. So they still do that. I work out of Manhattan, so I work from home, but I have to go in once a quarter.
Right.
So when I'm there, that's my little travel.
Right.
My which is cool. But yeah, man, this has been awesome, Matt. One thing I always love asking people is I always think it's like I always think about even myself, like these moments in life, like thinking about like, oh, should I have a memento or a keepsake early on in your career or even throughout? Did you keep anything from sets like scripts or any type of wardrobe or anything that you could
Yeah,
snag?
it's interesting that you're talking about that. I have kept some scripts. Some scripts I kept because I thought I could raffle them off for charity or something when the show
Oh,
was
that's awesome.
done. The only thing I've ever
Battlestar, I'm sure you
yeah,
can do that.
Battlestar, a couple scripts, but and I've got there's a cast book, I think at the end that I've got that I thought, will definitely have some value to it. Maybe I'll let that go at some point. I'm not a big collector of things, and over the last couple of years, I've really minimized what I have and recognized the less I have, the easier things are. Like I don't have to,
Yes.
in Toronto, we have a lot of storage units, like storage buildings, people where they store their stuff and to me, that's crazy. It's like you're literally
They're
paying.
all over, and I don't know who uses them. Even where I live, there's a million of them, and there's not that many people out where I
But
live.
they're
So I'm like,
full. This is the
who's
thing, is like
storing this?
people put their stuff in there and they pay like a mortgage payment to house stuff that they're like,
Yeah.
will never, they don't even know what's in there. So a lot of that TV stuff is like that. It's like, oh, I recognize that this is probably just, not something that I would hang on to. I did take a button off of a jacket on Battlestar.
Oh, that's cool.
When they were finishing the show, they literally, some company had bought everything to make, they were going to sell everything. They, deconstruct the wardrobe and stuff. My character had very specific clothes, so they took those clothes and they were handmade. Like that teal suit was handmade. All the clothes were. I had this rust color corduroy jacket, was handmade. So there was only like 2 of them, and they would take them and deconstruct them and make playing cards out of them, like cards,
Oh, I
collector cards,
gotcha.
and put like an
Oh,
oval
yeah,
fabric
like
sample
baseball
on them and stuff.
cards that cut up
Right.
jerseys.
So they were
and
making
stuff,
sure
yeah.
that nobody was walking off with anything. So they would literally, like, guys would be standing at your door of the trailer, like, and watching people leave, making sure that you didn't have bags of stuff. But I did take off a button, and
Yeah.
because it was like it had come from New York, the fabric had come from New York, the buttons had come from New York, and there was that was enough for me. So I took a button off that. Wonder if I'll get sued.
Yeah, no, I think that's cool. Whenever I talk to people, whenever I ask them about like keepsakes, like I'll have like I talked to Stuart Penkin, and his thing was like, oh, I have a closet that I just throw the scripts in, and I don't know why I keep them. I just keep throwing them in there. Talked to another guy. He was he was in a bunch of movies, not like a main guy. I can't think of his name even right now. But he was like, oh yeah, I have all the shirts they give me.
Right.
Like when they like cast shirts and stuff,
Right.
like these cool jackets. Like he was in Cliffhanger with Stallone. So he's like, oh yeah, I have this really cool jacket. What am I going to do with that? Am I going to wear Cliffhanger jacket out to anywhere?
Yeah.
But I think it is neat because there's some things that mean something. Like I talked to this guy, Stephen Poster. He worked on your favorite movie. I can't think of
Blade Runner.
He worked on Blade Runner. So he took like one of the in the like one of the main offices. There's like these posts that are hanging from the wall, and he uses it as a doorstop.
Totally. That's a great idea.
Yeah. And it was cool was he lives in John Carpenter's house. So like when we were done with the interview, he bought Carpenter's house that he had when they filmed The Fog. And so he had like they filmed scenes there. So yeah, but he goes, oh, you want to see something cool? And he picked it up off the ground, and it was like a legit thing.
That's really cool. That's really cool.
But I think it's so cool to just like, where's Headspace? Like, I'm telling you, I wouldn't even think of it because I'd be so excited probably working at something, and then when you're done, and then you're like, oh shit! Like, I have my best friend that I haven't seen in like 5 years, and at the end, I'm just like, holy shit, we didn't take like a photo together. Like, I was just being, but again, maybe it's better in the moment. Like, people might have better memories not thinking about taking. I don't know, but I think it's always interesting. People,
what people take and what kind of like, because when I think about stuff, and I have this conversation with people because, people who collect things or hang on to souvenirs. I'm like, why do you have that? Like, what is it? Is it the tactile or is it the physical scene of that sets these memories? Or if you just think about it, like, would a photo of that thing, would a photo of the button been the same for me? I guess that's my question.
yeah,
Do you know what I mean? Would that have
Yeah.
elicited the same sort of, because now it's in a box and I think I know where it is. It wasn't that, it was important, but it wasn't that important. But I think of it now and it sets off those emotions. So I don't know.
Yeah, like the cool memories of that. It takes you back. Like, I talked to a guy, not taking too much of your time. He was the director of photography on the Shield. Was that the first FX show? The first big FX show? Yeah, I think it was The Shield.
Yeah.
With Michael Chiklis.
Yeah.
So he worked on that and gave that because they wanted to be, cable wasn't cool at that point. So he like wanted to get the feel of like HBO shots.
Right.
So he was able to construct something and it worked. And because they didn't know if they were going to get renewed, I think at the end of the first season, but there was like this shot of like Michael Chiklis like throwing like this paper airplane, and he picked it up and kept it. It was something that he like threw at the end, and they were like, "Oh, it cut," and he went and picked it up, and he was like, "I still have this."
It's like the baseball,
So
right?
it's like, yeah,
It's like the perfect
you
game
never
baseball.
know
Yeah.
what. Totally, man. But Matt, this has been awesome, man. But yeah, if I do get up to Toronto, I'll definitely look you up.
Definitely.
I thought it was a cool. It's not far from me.
No, it's
I
not.
think it's only an 8-hour drive, but it was just a cool experience because we're like that. We're like, her sister had a monster wedding like the month before. We already had a plan anyway. We're like, what would be fun? Like, we got married on a boat. We didn't know anyone. I found the guy online, and the exchange rate at that time was like good for us.
Yeah.
So I remember when I paid the guy, I'm like, my God, this is good.
Yeah.
I'm like, this is Canadian.
We're ahead.
I remember paying like, yeah, this is good, man. The casino's right there.
Yeah.
But Toronto's cool. We met some rad people on like Queens and King Street.
Yeah.
Like, this guy still to this day, I'm Facebook friends with him. He said like, oh, where are you guys from? He was like chatting us up. And we're like, oh, from Jersey. We just got married. So he was the musician at this bar called Lou Dogs. He goes on stage, sings Bruce Springsteen. I'm like, this is like a cool memory.
Right.
This guy's like,
It's like a
serenading
movie.
these strangers.
It's like a movie. It's like your personal
It was
movie.
like a movie.
That's really cool.
Yeah. But man, this is great, Matt. So when this comes out, I'll shoot you an email.
Sure.
But yeah, man, I really appreciate you taking the
Great
time.
conversation. It was nice to meet you, and thanks for the invitation. Love
No
talking
worries,
about
man.
stuff.
I think it's so cool because not a lot of times that you're going to be talking. I'm not. It's not like actors get together and they're like, "Hey, I just start." What was the beginning like?
Yeah.
So I think that's cool. I love, like you mentioned before, like when you're like your friends, you're doing like portraits for them, and it's like you're learning things about them.
Yeah.
It's almost like the conversation with the bartender. That's what I always think about this as, because it's like you never talk about these things with other people in your gig, like, oh, your first role, like William Sadler, one of his first credits was Man Who Fell Downstairs.
Right.
And that's wild to me. Like,
Yeah.
you know him from so much, but it's like everybody starts like you
Starts
said,
somewhere.
The
Yeah.
person told you 10 years
Yeah.
is when you can get in there. And it's so true. Even him, even everybody, you
Yeah.
look at their IMDb's, I'm sure that is a standard of like, you got to play those roles, cop number 2.
I think you do.
The
Yeah.
lawyer.
If you want it, to me, longevity dictates that you need to step that ladder one rung at a time. And
But you'll see everything, right? I think the downfall of Steven Seagal was the fact that he became that guy right away. Like, he is a perfect example for what you're talking about. He had instant success. Like,
Yeah.
no other people can really say that they did that. Because I think his first 6 studio movies, I forgot what they did, but it was like a ridiculous number.
yeah.
And then he fell off.
Yeah.
And then he kept working and stuff.
Yeah.
But maybe because he didn't understand how it really worked, like the other people's roles, like him kicking guys in the face and being like a prick about it,
Yeah.
like these crazy stories of him. But it's like, you know why he did it? Because people let him do it.
Let him do
like
it.
he got away with it.
Yeah, I think there's a certain level of attitude with him. But he's right. There's a sort of, I call them A to A actors. They can do the one thing, and that's what he does, and not well. Not that I've met him or worked with him, but he's one of those phenoms that sort of, even though, well, he's made something for himself, and then, he's kind of become a caricature to a degree. Like if you look at people, if they stay in for too long, they become caricatures, like De Niro, Pacino.
Totally.
You know what I mean? It's like, oh, okay. As soon as people start imitating you, it's like, it's time to go.
That's when you're done. Yeah.
Like if anybody said I'm gonna do a Matt Bennett impersonation, and I think, oh, I gotta get out of the business.
That's when you're out.
Yeah, that's when I'm out, man. Something's up. Something's not working well here.
Yeah. All right, Matt. Thanks, man. I really appreciate it.
Great talking to you.
I'm proud of myself. This is the first time I did an intro for an actor from Canada and didn't mention a Canadian actor, but he did know a couple of the actors. That because I mentioned to him, and I love the way Canada does it. You have that extra year to be able to explore, find things that you might want. But really cool story, especially hearing about Corey Haim. One of our early interviews with R.A. Mihailoff. He was in License to Drive. He played the tow truck driver. Really cool stories about Corey. So it is good to hear those. Obviously, hear the way his life went from being a teen in Hollywood, but Matt was real cool talking about how great the sci-fi, because it's such a limitless field. You can write anything in sci-fi, and great stuff, man. Thank you, Matt. Really appreciate it. Now your homework, not even homework, good homework. You'd be happy to do it. You're gonna be like, oh, Professor Doug, wow, what do I have? Here's what you have. Third installment in a sequel there. You ready for it? K9 PI. Find it. It's a few bucks to rent. $3.79 on Amazon Prime. It's worth it. A lot of fun. Matt's great in it. There's a lot of Kevin Durant's in it, like an early role for him. And Belushi crushes it. So just check it out and then tune in next week. So don't forget to review, rate, share our podcast. Follow us on all social media at Sequels Only. And don't forget to share our website, sequelsonly.com. Good night.
Good night.
Good night, guys.